Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics. What? No, hang on. No, whoa. I see what you're doing. I see exactly what you're doing. You're sitting there. For those not watching us on, all right, Sam, calm. For those not watching us on YouTube, Sam is there in his England shirt.
Yes.
Jubilant. But we've got to let everyone into, we don't know, Sam.
Well, no, but and actually, mate, this goes out on Sunday. So people, if they're listening live or as soon as it's released, it's Sunday, 5:00. And we actually haven't got to the semi-final yet at time of recording. So it's no. I sort of thought I'll do a celebration, because maybe we will, and maybe we don't know. We don't know.
But I mean, I applaud your positivity, Sam.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very rare that we can be positive about the football. We're both football fans and supporters, so there have been moments of agony and ecstasy over the past few weeks. So
yeah, just and apologies to anyone who is tuning in and is sick to death of the football and is thinking, excellent, sorry. I'm going to listen to a nice podcast about the performance industry, acting and all that sort of stuff. And these two gits have gone on to football. Can we not escape it anyway? No. I mean, as Drew said, we are both fans, but go on. What are you going to say now?
No, I was about to say, you talk about it with, this is a podcast about performance and acting, but have you seen some of the diving around the penalty areas? I mean,
Oscar worthy.
There are Oscars are waiting to. You took the words out of my mouth, my friend.
Yeah.
Oscars waiting to be given. But
exactly. There we go. But yeah, so we are recording this early in the week. As you're all aware, both Drew and I are enormously busy at the moment. I'm away on tour. Drew is about to begin rehearsals for his summer show. All very exciting. So we're finding times where we can fit stuff in. Hence why actually we don't know if England have even got to the final. And when this is released, if we are in the final, we'll be watching it as you might be watching this or just after this is released. So there's all sorts of unknowns in the element. All we do know is that somehow, and I say somehow, England have got to the semi-final of the Euros, and regardless of the outcome of the semi-final and then potentially the final, we can't argue that they have fought hard and they've done themselves proud. There have been lots of questions, and we won't go into it because that's not what this podcast is all about. But I am going to raise my beer to the England team and all the staff and everyone involved for achievements, regardless of whether you think they've done it with style or scraped through. Well done to each and every one of them. So cheers.
Here we go.
And as I said, hopefully at the point that you out there are watching or listening to this, the celebrations will have been relevant because England hopefully will have won the Euros. But we won't know until after this episode goes out. Yeah.
And now we love a segue.
We do.
I've got a little segue.
Yeah.
We are hoping that football is coming home, which is
so often. Supposed to say it. They said, "Go on." Yeah.
All right. But I would see yesterday. Knowing that I was recording with you, I've been singing because you're away on tour. I've been singing. Sam is coming home because here you are. Come home to record. It's a very tenuous one, this, but here you are. Come home from tour. Or your very, very, very busy rehearsal period to come and record your podcast with your little old mate. So It's lovely to have you, matey. Lovely.
Yeah. No, and it's lovely to be home. Obviously, I'm loving what I'm doing. Fabulous show to be part of, or shows to be part of, because we're doing 2 shows in rep. And the team are incredible. And obviously being directed by the lovely Andy Linfield, who everyone met a few weeks back. But it's also very much nice to be home, see family, friends, partner, etc. To be in my own bed. That's quite nice, rather than being in accommodation, digs, whatever you want to call it.
So glad you didn't say somebody else's, because that would have come across very bad.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, I've not been bed hopping random people. I promise you. But yeah, and I tried, mate. Obviously, I'm wearing an England shirt, but it's it's one of the retro ones. I think from the 90s. I think it's what they call the 90s Inter kit. But I went sort of blue polo as best I
Yeah,
could. So
I
it's
think
England and
I
Drewling
think
Samantics and a whole mixture.
you're knocking it out of the park on so many levels, mate. It's brilliant
I'll
stuff,
do my
and
best,
it's
mate. Do my
good to
best.
see it. Right, slurp of coffee. I've got some news.
You've got some news, right? Go on
All right,
then. Hit us with some
down to
news.
business. A
What
couple
is
of things.
said news?
Well, we'll get to it in a minute, but obviously we've had the election and things are changing
Mm,
on the political spectrum. But we'll get there. But there was one little bit of news today. And I've not gathered much news because of I've been manically busy, but there was a big loss in the film production world this week.
yes.
Lost John Landau. Now I mentioned John Landau because obviously he produced Avatar: Way of Water, Titanic, etc., etc. And I know that you will have done your homework and you're bound to have a load of facts and figures because you're a facts and figures man.
Well, yeah,
So
yeah. So John Landau is a name that I imagine not many people know. Um, but he, as you say, was probably one of the most influential or one of the most evolved film producers of modern memory, I suppose.
I think you're right. Yeah,
Wasn't very old. In fact, I believe he was born the same year as you. Is that right?
he was. Yeah, yeah.
So sad early loss at the age of 63. Now he worked with James Cameron on Titanic, Avatar, and Avatar: The Way of Water, and it just so happens that those are three of the four highest grossing films of all time globally. Now, to, to achieve the highest grossing in anything, obviously, is a massive thing, but to be part of three of the top four ever, and that spans when you consider Avatar, the first Avatar was 2009. Titanic was 12 years before that, and
Wow.
The Way of Water was it 2 years ago? Avatar: The Way of Water. So you're
Yeah, I
looking
think
at a
yeah, 22.
25-year span to be at the top of the game. Now that's bloody impressive. And actually, both Titanic and Avatar, Avatar still is now the number one highest grossing film of all time. It replaced Titanic, which in turn replaced Jurassic Park, I want to say.
I think you might be
I
right.
think
Yeah,
Jurassic Park, but I think Titanic doubled what Jurassic Park took, which is insane. And was obviously the
extraordinary.
biggest, highest grossing film up until I think Avatar. So basically, John Landau and obviously everyone involved, James Cameron, etc. Basically took their own title, if you like. A bit like Usain Bolt. Every time he ran, he
Yeah,
basically
breaking his
beat
own
his own
record.
world record. So Avatar came in and replaced Titanic as number one. Then Avengers Endgame, which obviously is considered to be the biggest player in the Marvel Universe series of films, that actually overtook Avatar temporarily. And then they announced Avatar: The Way of Water. And because Avatar: The Way of Water came out, Avatar jumped back up because a lot of cinemas sort of did a what do they call it, a double feature, or
Yeah,
they
yeah.
played Avatar in the lead up to Avatar the sequel. Because I mean, 13 years for a sequel that everyone knew was coming sort of as soon as the first one was released is a long, long time. So people almost wanted a reminder, or I guess a lot of people capitalized a lot of theatres and stuff, cinema theatres. So Avatar then leapt, back to the top, and Avatar: The Way of Water followed it almost all the way up into third place. So yeah, so John Landau, as said, not necessarily a name or a person that people will be overly familiar with, but when it comes to achievements, financially, which is probably your number one marker for a producer, the number one way of checking it, yeah, unbelievable. And equally, Titanic, how many Oscars?
Well,
Numerous Oscars.
quite.
Same with Avatar. And I believe he was nominated for numerous awards himself.
Mm.
So, for example, I know he there was a Golden Globe for Avatar: Way of Water. Um, Producer of the Year nomination for Avatar. Yeah, so huge achievements. And equally other films, things like Solaris, Dick Tracy back in the 90s, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, involved in all of those as well. So as a man at the forefront not someone that people would know, but as a man making huge achievements and doing enormous things for the film and production world, yeah, just a legend, an absolute legend.
I mean, you if he said put your money on a horse, you'd probably follow him because if you think of the risks he took
Mm.
with Titanic, I mean, there was you know filmmaking techniques on both Titanic and Avatar. You take those to a studio, and go, we're going to do this. They go, you must be mad because this is just going to cost so much money. Yeah, but just imagine that much. Yeah, but to persuade studios and actors, and fellow producers, and just to risk that. I mean, those movies cost millions to make,
Oh
they
God,
raised
like
billions, but
enormous.
the actual risk and talent
Mm.
that was involved they changed the way cinema was made. They were far reaching, and to have that vision and then to be able to raise the money
Mm.
is extraordinary.
Yeah,
it's
no,
it's yeah.
enormously talented, extremely clever man, and he will obviously be sorely missed, not just by the industry, but by the general public who, without knowing it, will lose out because his
Yeah,
influence and his
yeah.
ability, his support of new movies. Well, yeah, it's going to be something that will affect very heavily. So a cheers to him.
Cheers to him.
Uh,
Good man.
Without John Landau, I mean, the three of the top four highest grossing movies of all time
Never
may
made.
not have got to
Never
the.
made.
So cheers, mate. Thank you.
Now, of course, we couldn't, and I mentioned about we've had the election,
We have, yes, indeed.
and we talked a little while ago about the culture secretary, and I mentioned then, and she's lost her seat, but Thangen Debonair, who's got one of the best names I've ever heard, and she was a good politician, and she was good for the arts. Lisa Nandy is now, excuse me, is now our secretary for, is it culture, media, and sport, and she has secretary of state for culture, music. She has quite a pedigree. I mean, she entered Parliament many years ago, and during the time, and I kind of like her track record because we never know where, and we're still very early in New Labour's, not New Labour, but the New Labour government.
Yes,
But
yes.
she has been secretary for levelling up, housing and communities, energy secretary, and shadow international development minister. Now, those are all sympathetic positions. Now, I don't know whether that means she's going to start diverting money away from the arts, or say we can't afford the arts because they're too elitist. We need to, or whether they are going to, whether the Labour government is going to look and go, look, the arts bring in billions, a couple of billion a year. They're worth money. Um, if you're connected with John Landau, then you're bringing in billions and billions. That was
Yeah.
my connection. So it waits to be seen how they tackle this, and obviously it's early days. It can go, for me, it can go one or two ways. She either goes, well, we must embrace the arts because it makes money, it employs a lot of people, and since the Unwelcome Guest, it's been on a steady climb. There was an article the other day saying that without backing from government, 1 in 5 theatres could close.
Wow.
Which is a ghastly thought. So hopefully, we talk a lot about regional theatre. We both work in regional theatre a lot when we're touring, and also that if you're leveling up and trying to give things to your community, I think one of the best things you can give to a community, I would say this, but is a thriving theatre. But somewhere that people, if there's a theatre already in the town, then you've got somewhere where you can take young people for activities. You've got somewhere where you can if there's a cafe there, you can say to your elderly that are at home lonely, come over here, come in and have a social life here. And there are lots of little theatres around the country that do that. Got a bit off the track there, but I think if she does help investment in the theatre, it can only be for the best. It was difficult to persuade the Tory government that was the case.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I'm hoping.
It's an interesting one, and we don't tend to get too political on Drewling Samantics. We like to see things from both sides. We like to open up discussions. We like to be free to all suggestions and all points of view, etc., etc. My current point of view, and for anyone watching from abroad who may not be familiar with sort of what's gone on in Britain recently, we've sort of probably replaced one bunch of idiots who don't know what they're doing with another bunch of idiots who don't know what they're doing. It's quite a negative view, but to me, they all sound quite a lot alike, and they just argue a lot. That's how it seems to come across. But equally, can it get any worse? Probably not. So why not have a change? My sort of devil's advocate element to what you were saying is the culture secretary now sounds like she's jumped from different areas. Is that, and I don't know enough about politics, but is that because she's very good at doing stuff, so they get her in, start stuff off, make sure that things are improving, and then move her on to do that in the next place? Or is it because they still haven't found what she's good at yet? And I know that sounds quite derogatory in a way, but for me, like, should you not specialize? I don't know. Should we not bring in someone who has got a genuine interest in that area rather than just someone who is good at being a politician? I don't know. It's difficult.
I think. I mean, it's. You can never predict politics, but I mean, I think. I mean, she's moved around because I mean, cabinet reshuffles and changing as soon as Labour have been in opposition for 14 years. She's been put up against. If she's going to be the shadow minister for something or the shadow secretary or whatever, if she seems to be a good opposition for that person, then they'll bring her in. I mean,
yeah.
It's like a lot of jobs. People move around in politics more than maybe they should. Sometimes, as you say, you should stay there and stick at a job. Some of the ministers in the Tory government should have moved on a lot quicker than they have. Some instances they've been sacked. Labour has stuck with their, and I think Keir Starmer's style of governing is to bring people in and make them work at their jobs, and you've got to prove your worth. Interestingly, looking at his front bench and the people that he's put in his cabinet, it's the most, and I hate these class terms, but it's the most, if you believe where they all come from, working class front bench for many a long year. Certainly for the Labour Party, I mean, the Tories,
It's funny you say that, because what I was going to say was, I believe, and this is always a positive, and we've talked about it quite a lot in terms of entertainment, he's brought in more female lead politicians than any other historical British government, which is obviously a very positive thing. We're striving for, I'm going to say, equity, not equality. Because I read an interesting thing that sort of, equality is giving everyone the same, but equity is giving everyone what they need, which is more important. There was like quite a clever diagram.
That's nice.
I say diagram. It's like a little picture, cartoony thing, and I think it was something to do with people trying to pick an apple from a tree, and they'd given all three people the same ladder, but they were all different heights. So the one person with the ladder was too tall, one person could barely reach, and one person even with the ladder couldn't reach. Whereas with equity, what you would do is give the tallest person a ladder that is enough for them to get there, and then stagger it. So I've gone off again on a tangent, but the point is that we want equity, we want equality, whichever way you want to look at it.
Yeah.
And by bringing in more female politicians, it can only be a good thing, and give that other view. And that's what we've said about theatre, spreading out, making sure that we're not focusing in certain directions and everything. So it doesn't become, as politics quite often is, that rich boys club. And that's what needs to be.
And many would say that with more women in his cabinet, that it would be a more sympathetic and empathetic cabinet, and it won't be the old boys club. I certainly hope that's the case, because I think it would, and they say that they all come from a background that understands need and understands that there are people in there are some people in great need. There are some people in need. There are some people that are okay. And that's that equity thing you were saying, that you just give everybody, level the playing field, leveling up
Yeah,
on that shit.
yeah,
But,
essentially, yeah.
give
That's
them what they need. I like the arts. We're not asking for millions upon millions. We're not asking to be bought out. We're just asking for enough money to make theatre work.
mm,
We'll bring you money back.
yeah,
You give subsidy for theatre, subsidies for film, it will make you money.
I
It's
think
like investment in anything. It's like, but you're investing in people who will, give us a job, we'll pay our taxes.
I think
You
it's
know?
about recognition. I think we're not saying that we should have the same sort of funding as the NHS. I mean, we are
No,
not, we are certainly not saving lives
excuse me.
the sort of the way you could look at it. But we started during the Unwelcome Guest, and we saw how we were not valued. Like that, there were, you should retrain, you should do this, you are not viable, all that. But we've equally discussed how when people are stuck at home, what do they do other than watch
Yeah.
TV, read a book, listen to the radio, anything that is influenced by the creative industry? And actually, a lot of people turn to these sort of things as a way to deal with pain and suffering. And I'm not building it to say we're saving lives. We're not in the sense of the word, but you never know. There might silly things like there might be an advert on TV telling someone to reach out for help, and they might do that, and because of that, it might change their life. And certainly, I've been part of productions. I know you have too. I've toured schools. We had Callan Durrant, brilliant theatre producer, and runs a theatre company, who take things into schools that educate and help. And there will be some children that who were influenced by what we did and felt brave enough to speak out or ask for help. And that's hugely important. And
Mm.
without that funding and without that support from the government, these things wouldn't happen. So it's very difficult to measure. We're not saying it's a cut and shut thing where you chuck billions of pounds at us and we'll make the world better. Great. That's not what we're saying. But equally, without theatre, without that side of culture and creativity, the country is or the island is a far worse place. Um, so yeah, we're hoping that there will be the right kind of support. And I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think I a long time since I went to university, but I studied what people might consider a slightly more normal degree, in the sense that I did a Bachelor of Science in it was an engineering based degree. It was still in the creative industry because it was to do with post production, working with microphones, projection, film, TV, but as sort of the engineering side, how it all works, the science
Mm.
behind it, light and sound and technology and things like that. But it seems to be that anything that is slightly more academic, shall we say, gets more support. And certainly, again, I don't know, it's not really my background, but I believe it's far, far more difficult to get financial support if you come from a poor background, if you are going into the arts, if you are going to study at a theatre school as opposed to a mainstream university. But
Yeah.
this is more your area of expertise. I say that it was. I think you went to drama school with Noah and his arc, didn't you? It was that long ago. But it's
I only went because I was sent by by the casting director. That's the only reason I was there. Yeah. It's like there are two of everybody on here. Well, he's going over the side for a start if he's going to get my work. But no,
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
But no, so it's something you're more familiar with, certainly. Like, and I know bits about your background. Are you happy to talk about like how what happened financially and stuff? Like,
I mean, to follow up from what you were saying just before, I think it's yeah. I mean, it's that you invest in or investment is given to university students because it's harder to get funding for the arts. It's harder because we're not seen um as money making. It just what is what's productive about putting on a show that people come and enjoy? And that's the whole dichotomy of it is like, but for every actor that is working there, for everybody who's working in that building, they're paying tax. They're if the show goes on tour, there are so many things that are so many little intangible things that you don't know. And we've had this discussion many times that theatre does, and you alluded to theatre and education and stuff like that. But it's a business like anything else. It hasn't been treated as such in a widespread. And I think people now are going, hang on a minute, if we are going to survive and if we are going to demand backing and support and investment, then we have to prove that it's a viable business. And I think we're getting there now, because if theatre doesn't do it, it's got to start swimming rather than just waving its hands for a lifebelt. And I think that's a terrible metaphor, but I think that's where we're heading.
It's an interesting.
But I mean,
I've not had that before, but
I'll just chuck it all together. But I mean, from my point of view, I mean, I went to drama school 79 to 82 at Webber Douglas, which no longer exists. It was amalgamated with Central many years ago. I mean, yeah, I mean, I didn't end up with student loans and student debt. There were no such thing as student loans in my day. I mean, there were grants, but I didn't qualify for one because I got a subsistence allowance.
Yeah.
That I could eke out and just about live on, but I worked when it was summer holidays, end of term holidays. I worked. I had to work, and then during my summer holiday, I would try and earn a term's fees, or at least half my fees or whatever. I was supported by my dad, who, here's a little connection. My dad was a tool maker. I don't know if Keir Starmer ever mentioned that his father was a tool maker. He might have slipped it into conversation occasionally. He never stopped bloody mentioning it. But my dad was a tool maker as well. They had the same profession.
Oh, incredible!
So yeah,
hopefully that's that kind of Keir Starmer will. I mean, we know he mentions it all the time, but he will play on the fact that yes, working class background. Listen to the other people that come from working class.
That's what I'm hoping that front bench will do. But yeah, I mean, I applied for a grant. I had to go and audition in front of the education board, Bedfordshire Education Board. These people wouldn't have known theatre from a tennis racket. They had
Just to establish, so we're not talking about your audition to get into drama school. You're technically accepted into drama school at this point.
I've got a place at drama school, and then I need some funding.
So you've got to audition before the people who decide what happens with the funding.
Yeah.
So you've done your important audition, and then they're making you, but not the university. You're being made to audition again by people who have no idea.
No idea. Not a clue. Not a clue. I mean, at the time, Webber Douglas was in the top 6 ranked drama schools in the country. I was lucky enough to get a place, and it was like, and then I thought that.
Sorry, so it was top 6, and then you went, and now then afterwards it wasn't top 6.
25 years later. No, it was at one point when I was there, it was in the top 2.
Wow.
It was at one point, it was in the top 2. But that changed every term, because they'd come in and go, all your students are working too long a days, lose an accreditation star or whatever. It's like, oh, shut up. Bunch of arseholes. So the people that come in from the education department going, they had no idea. They go, but you're working from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. Yeah. So are doctors, so are nurses, so are miners, so are, what's your problem? Well, you shouldn't be doing that. Oh, come on, fuck off and let's get on with it. I've got a play to put on. I've got a living to try and earn in one of the toughest businesses. I don't need you sitting there with a clipboard going, oh, there aren't enough coffee cups in your canteen. It was like,
why are you not a 9 to 5? Why do you
exactly
think? Yeah. Jesus. But yeah.
I'm in a business that is never 9 to 5 ever, But yeah, so I got a place, a good drama school. They've already said I'm good enough to study for 3 years. And then I go down to the education office. I do my 2 pieces that I did for to get into drama school. And they all sat there and, oh, yes, yes. I thought, you have not a clue. I was there with guys that had got into, School of Art, Chelsea School of Art, whatever, Westminster, all, to study art and design. They had to bring their paintings along or their designs and this is what I do.
So, but was it all different sort of art? So were there people there
Yeah,
going, I need some funding to do my maths degree. I'm going to count to 12 for you.
Well, that wasn't the problem. This was a vocational grant, so you went to vote. So they had to decide, and they didn't have much money. They did, but they didn't want to give it away.
Yeah.
So and they said, well, your fees, and it was means tested. So my father earned just about enough, they reckoned, to pay my fees. So I got a subsistence grant to live on.
That's sort of what they're probably called maintenance grant.
Maintenance
loan, or whatever at university these days.
So that's it. It pays your rent, food, and all that arse. It wasn't enough, so I had to work. It was just ridiculous. I mean, I counted pennies. I was. I mean, my flatmate and I, we had a dodgy studio flat in the middle of Earl's Court, and we broke into electricity meter like everybody did in those days, and they couldn't work out. And we were, wow, we don't know why we're getting a month's electricity for 50p. We don't have no idea. We don't know. You just pump the same 50p in, and then we get a load of change and shove it in there, and we get 6 or 7 quid, 50p's, bung it in, put the box back on, screw it back on, and they come and empty it. Oh, you haven't used much? No, we're not here because we're students. We're never here, so we don't use much electricity.
But I mean, you say 6 or 7 quid, but back then it's still.
Well, that was a lot of money because our rent was 25 quid a week or something like that in the middle of Earl's Court. But see that was the other thing. I was at drama school, and we all went. We were a really mixed bag, and that was the strength of Webber. It turned out great actors because it took them from all backgrounds, and some of the best character actors in the country came out of Webber Douglas. But I went there with guys that were there was a guy that had been a doctor. He gave up and became an actor. A guy who'd been a solicitor, and he'd recently sat the bar. Couldn't get into practice, so went, okay, I'm going to become an actor. He is now a celebrated playwright and writes for many theatres around the country and does that. So he did well. But we had one guy, and he was from the landed gentry. Now what? Well, yeah, oh yeah. Well, Steve and I were my flatmate Steve. Big shout out to Steve Oliver, who lives in Malta, very very successfully. He is this mate of ours. He was landed gentry. He lived.
I'm noting that you're not saying a name. There's a reason, isn't there?
Oh, I'm not saying the name. No, I'm not saying the name. As he can sue, and he's got more money to sue than I have. But no, he was a lovely guy, and very actually quite talented guy. But he was there basically to be a Renaissance man, and learn everything about it. Lovely guy, talented. But we were in this flat at the top of a bloody bedsit block in Earl's Court, and he had a £500,000 million flat in South Kent. So saying, one of the most generous men I've ever met. He shared his largesse, but we were all different backgrounds. Most of the people have fallen by the wayside for one thing or another. Some people are still very connected to the industry. Some have gone. But I mean, money wise, we were still seen as we were still seen amongst the theatre elite. You go to every year there would be a unarmed combat or arms, stage combat convention, and we'd all go along and we'd all do our stage fighting routines that had got us our certificates. And you'd meet all these other people there from RADA and Central, Guildhall, Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, all these theatre schools, about 6 or 7 big accredited drama schools. We'd all be mixing. And you'd look around going, this is it. This is the creme de la creme of, British theatre.
Yeah.
And then 2 months later, there'd be another lot, and they would be the creme de la creme. And then 2 months, there was loads of us. But but some people found it easy. And there were quite a lot of people at Webber Douglas that they had money. They come from money backgrounds. But there was quite a few people there that didn't have any money at all. We were scraping our asses along the ground to go.
No. And this is the thing that we sort of we're talking about. We're about in this country. We're about to engage in a new government. We have a new government coming in. We're in the transitional period now. We hope that things will be changed for the better. We don't know. We will obviously discuss them as we go along, and if we've got any information, any important, interesting information, we'll bring that up. But I guess the main sort of conversation point we get from this is that just because it looks like what you study or what you do as a profession is fun doesn't make it less important. And
it's a business. It's strange that we call it the business. We as actors, we call it, I'm in the business.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's often referred to as the industry because it covers, a wider sphere of stuff. Business and industry,
it's show business, not show hobby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are viable. We make money. It's simply. When it comes down to simple facts, and there's been a lot of discussion in over the election about tax. Are they going to raise tax? If you pay me, I'll pay my tax. If I've got work to do, I'm happy to pay tax. I don't mind it. You can't run a country, can't do anything without some form of taxation. That's obvious. But, if you cut my job or you take my job away or take anybody's job away, then I'm going to need, or that if you take someone's job away, they're going to need support in some respect.
Yeah.
That costs the government. It costs more to support me out of work than it would supporting the infrastructure to give me work.
Yeah.
That's investment in anything is good. People pay a lot of money to go to university. They end up with vast debt, student debt, and thankfully I never ended up with that. No. I ended up a bit of an overdraft, but that was more my slate at the local.
In general, mate, that is.
Well, exactly. That was more my slate at the local pub. Yeah. But I mean, it's like, well, engineering. I understand that it produces things. It's productive. We produce things that give money. And if you're John Landau, he produced things that made billions.
And if you're the England football team, you produce, hopefully, a brilliant performance. And let's finish there, mate. We'll raise a glass. Cheers to you. Congratulations / commiseration / good luck, England. And here's to, hopefully, this new government making a big difference. Next week, let's have a guest, mate. What do you reckon?
Let's have a guest. Are you coming home again?
Probably. I'll see
Marvelous. You. That's the best.
See you all later. Cheers,
bye, everyone. Cheers.
Bye. Thanks again for watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.